Welcome to Demming Chronicles Season 2. Our aim is to change behavior, but we wish to change the conversation in order to change behavior. We chat with persons whose ideas and opinions are just different. Those ideas and opinions can make a difference to the future of our country. On today's program, we have Dr. Julia Kotzebue. Welcome.
Hello.
Glad to have you on our program. And our next guest, Marlon Jeffers.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Demming Chronicles, we'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back, Demming Chronicles. Dr. Kotzebue, when I looked at your CV, I saw things like sustainability, things like spatial development, things like transportation. Tell me, how did you get interested in transportation?
Yeah, thank you, Denise, for having me and for this question. I grew up in a city of Hamberg in Germany, and I bicycle and walk. So I experienced every day the injustice on the road because I do not contribute to the air pollution, but I have to breathe the polluted air, hear the noise cars make. I am the most vulnerable person in traffic, but I have to adjust to drivers' behavior. So, and my kids had no place to play. To give you an example, in Hamburg, each child has 10 square meter playing ground or a park, and each car has 12 square meter parking space. So let's compare to Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago imported last year 25,000 cars, but only 17,000 children were born in 2020. So they import more cars than they have people. So in fact, we give more space to cars than to our children. And that made me really, I thought this is what triggered me.
That is an interesting statistic that we imported more cars last year than children who were born into the country. One gets the impression that the cars are the future and not the children. But tell me, if you had to reimagine our transportation system or the transportation system for a developing country, how would you reimagine that?
I would like to see a walkable, which means nice for walking, bikability, which means good for bicycling, and a regulated private mass transportation system. So as an expert in sustainable integrated transportation, my perspective on transportation differs from the classical perspective, which means in the classical sense, we were focused on the technology, and we had to create a physical world and an institutional system to let that technology run and work. So while integrated transport and sustainable transport think about how can we be mobile as humans in a social, environmental, and economical healthy way. So transport is linked to all aspects of our life, to our social relationships, to food security, education, quality of life, health. And coming back to your question, I had, for instance, my sustainable transport group made a survey with a very simple question. We asked the people, what do you need to make your daily transportation life better in future? And the vast majority responded that they need an efficient, reliable mass transportation system in the entire country, in rural and urban. So, and a very reliable and official and very healthy transport system is the bicycle. To give you an example, the industry showed in Europe a tremendous growth. 20 million bicycles compared to 50 million cars were sold last year. And I hear very often for Trinidad, yeah, that's nice, but this does not work in Trinidad. It's hot and the climate and we have hills and wind. But this is not fully the true picture because old people told me, and I saw a picture from 1960, Trinidad was full of bicycles. And nowadays we have the advantage of electric powered assisted cycles. So, and additionally, Trinidad and Tobago has already a very well-functioning private public transport transportation system, the maxi taxi and the taxis. So, and we have now the technology and computer apps to make it reliable and efficient. So, yeah, so I think there is potentials, but we need also the will to change.
All right. You talked about the 60s, and if I could reflect on my own childhood, my father used to ride to work, but that kind of thing has just disappeared. So we now are just using a number of cars. Everybody has a car. Many houses have more than one car. How could, if you had to do something to change that, what would you do?
Well, the advantage of having environmental, sustainable, and economically healthy system, because this system at the moment is not economically healthy, is that we have to realize what mobility means. Being mobile means also to be active, right? And to take part in life. And when we sit in our car, we have less contact to our neighborhood. Studies show that people who drive feel more afraid to move in a neighborhood, for instance, because they don't know, they don't talk to the people. They just go in their car and drive. So what I would like to see is a priority to walking, making the city comfortable for walking and bicycling. That means also to create shade, planting trees, and a priority to the mass transportation system, to the private mass transportation. So this includes also to give up all the subsidization for cars, for the public owned mass transportation system, because it did not work, and to support the private system. I would also recommend a mandatory traffic education at primary and secondary school, because they need to change mindsets, behavior. The children do not learn to walk nowadays. They go in the car and drive. So they have to learn it. And of course, we need leaders and leading by example. So I bicycle to my work. But we also need high-ranking managers who bicycle and who give the opportunities for employers to bicycle, for instance, and to walk, have showers in the companies, changing lockers so that they can be well equipped at work, and they have to support the healthy employer. And it would be, for instance, also an idea to have a zero-emission university campus to lead by example.
You've just raised the issue of managers walking and riding, politicians walking and riding. You realize that that is very counter to our culture. So that how are we going to get this kind of culture change happening? Any
I think
thoughts?
there has to be a commitment and a will. I know, for instance, from the Netherlands that even the king and the queen bicycle, because they have also the industry, the Dutch bicycle industry, and they are proud of it. But I think what really people want to be, and this is maybe linked to COVID-19, what we see is the most people who are in hospital are those with comorbidities. So an unhealthy life is not only linked to being mobile, being social active, or having a healthy economy in this country, having a healthy trade balance in this country. It is also linked to the personal quality of life. So when you work 8 hours, 10 hours, you don't have time for sport. But if you integrate in your daily routine and active traveling, this will change your life.
Mhm. People listening to us may just think that we are dreamers. What is it practical? Have you seen this happen practically in any other developed country that we may be able to just look at?
I mean, there's a little bit a misconception that in developing countries, a lot of cars are used. The opposite is the way. As soon as you go out of port of Spain, for instance, what we saw in our research in Charlottesville is that the most people share transportation and are dependent on mass transportation. So it is a luxury of a small elite in a country to have their own car and to have the space for their own car. But what we have to change is the image, so that the elite also understands that they're doing something with their behavior to the community, right? It is a sort of difference between me and us. Obviously, it needs a mass transportation system which is safe, so which is comfortable, which is more comfortable than traveling. And that is what we see in Europe. For instance, Germany is a car country, car manufacturing country, and a car loving country. But there's now coming, and it is now in transition, because people cannot drive. Instead of sitting 2 hours in the morning in their car, they start bicycling and bicycle for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and they're more faster at their working place and their destination. There has to be a mind change, and this cannot be changed when there is no education at school, no education in the society.
And before we end this interview, what advice would you have in order to implement a change in our approach to mass transit?
I think there must become more recognition for the private mass transportation. And recognition, I mean, with not this laissez-faire attitude and the minimalistic regulation what is at the moment. Then there needs to be scientific-based and support knowledge for the Maxi Taxi Association, for the Taxi Driver Association, to create a functioning network in all areas. There must be controls that you don't have these private vehicles operating under the price, creating risks, and also pushing down the image of the system. On the other hand, some areas have no choice, because there is no maxi taxi route. They're also filling gaps, and this is due to there is no systematic transport planning, no systematic transport strategy in this country. So there need be scientific based acting in this country.
What I hear you say is we need the scientific information. We also need the structures and the systems, and we need the authorities to manage a whole new approach to transportation. As I bring this interview to an end, what are your parting comments?
Yes, and I'm also going away from this technical engineering perspective, coming to the human perspective. What you are saying, how do we change behavior? We don't solve that solution with technique.
We solve it by focusing on the people. Demming Chronicles. We'll be back with you shortly. Welcome back, Demming Chronicles, and our guest, Marlon Jeffers. Marlon is the Managing Director and Event Professional with Imperial Events Limited. With a name like that, Marlon, tell me, what does your business do?
Well, basically, Imperial Events is an event management company, but we have somewhat structured our business in such a way that companies could hire us to execute the events. Because I found that a lot of people may have, some companies may want to, they will conceptualize the event, but they may want a company to come and execute their ideas for them, or what they have conceptualized. And that is one of the things that Imperial Events is very good at. The other areas that we also provide decor solutions, protocol solutions. We also provide what you call social media management and sponsorship management for companies. So we work along also small businesses in trying to get their ideas, particularly in this time of COVID, online. So we also assist them with online platform integration. So it's a business that, look at advertising, promotion, event management, and we also look at customer service, what you call customer service management solution, and also training. So we specialize in this thing too.
How have you functioned over the last 18 months? Because events have almost been, they've almost disappeared.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, in this business, you have to have passion. Um, and if it is you don't have passion, you either pivot to another country or pivot out of the industry. I've so many of my colleagues, fall to the wayside during this industry, and I could understand how that happened. I for myself kept a little busy, because they have, well, when it was allowed, I have done some micro weddings, to a smaller scale, and I've done a lot of what you call social media management integration for certain companies, small businesses. So I've done that. I've also found the time to what you call volunteer my services to, especially when it comes to the vaccination, So I've assisted work along the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health in that regard, So that is something that kept me a little active during the time. But yes, it has affected me. But again, it's resilience and passion if it is you want to stay in this industry. Yeah.
Resilience, passion, and creativity. I see
Yes.
your industry as a part of the creative sector. But when I say creative sector, what do you actually think about?
Well, creative sector for me, run is a very well. That is a very large industry, because I mean, I look at, for instance, anybody that be able to formalize an idea and bring it to fruition, innovation. We have also people who are also in the theater, the people in carnivals, people in also the fashion industry. So it's a large industry, but particularly within my industry, we are so much. When it comes to conceptualizing events and executing events, and I see something is forming an idea, we utilize our ideas and our skill sets to be able to bring something successful to the, as an end product. I think that is something that we bring to harness our creativity. We utilize other skills. For instance, if it is you're doing an event, I have to call upon people like, for instance, lighting technicians, audio technicians, decorators, even the food and beverage industry, the servers, so all we depend on all these other people that are also creative, in their own right, bring them together to bring our end product. It's not just me alone, or just our company alone. We work with other companies in unison to ensure that everything goes smoothly. So that is why I look at creativity in that regard. Yeah.
But traditionally, our society has given a lot of credence to doctors, lawyers, academics, and so on. And then they don't see the link between the creatives and income generation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes. My thoughts in regards to that is, we need to have more respect for people in the creative industry. People, yes, we need the doctors, we need the lawyers, but at the end of the day, we also have other people who have chosen another path, to probably bring income not only for themselves but the income of others. And we need to somewhat look at this industry and give them respect in that regard. For instance, I will look at it. Let me draw an example for you. All right. Now, doctors have to go and they need to leisure. You understand? They need to go into, probably go to a theater, enjoy a show. This is where we need the creative industry, for example. And this is something that I want to bring, because especially these days, we have to look at mental health, because we can't just be all serious all the time. So we need people who be able to create that environment of leisure, of to laugh at ourselves in society. And that is how important how the theater and the arts come into play. For instance, in my particular industry with events management and events execution, you need people to put together event. Some people may have the idea how to conceptualize it, but they need somebody to execute the plan for you, to our end product. So that is how important it is. And also, we have to look at this industry as income generating. Like, for instance, people want to come to Trinidad and Tobago. What are they coming to Trinidad for? You understand? They're coming also for the arts, the entertainment, and that is way of bringing what you call foreign exchange into the country. So we have to look at everybody has a role in society. We have to respect our roles and, work together, to support each other and bring about equity in this industry. Yeah.
When I think of other young people who wish to get into this space, what advice would you give to a young person?
Have passion.
Mm.
Have passion. I mean, and if you don't have passion for what it is you want to do, and I think this is something we have to encourage or foster in our young people to follow their dreams. Not everybody want to work for someone. Some people want to work for themselves and create employment for themselves. We're in a society, we have to move that paradigm shift where, well, okay, I go to university, I get a degree, and I'm looking for a government work. We have to get people to think, why not you create the work for yourself? And when you create the work, you also create work for others. So I think we have to think more like that, get young people to understand there is value in the creative arts, and we have to try to foster and support them. And when I say support them, I'm looking at the government. I'm looking at also the corporate sector, business sector. Find some way to reach out to people who are, in the creative arts industry and support them somehow. There's many ways to do that.
How did you get into this industry?
That's a very long story because my last job was at the Hyatt. I was a training officer for the Hyatt, and I decided, because I've worked a lot of companies, until I realized that, I wanted to be my own boss, because I've worked in the telecommunication industry, the airline industry, the hotel management, even the health sector, but even automotive sector also, automation. So I have decided to create a job for myself and realize the skill sets that I have, the talents that I have, formulate with others and provide a service not only to my country, but to myself, and creating employment for myself and others. So that is what I decided to come into this industry, and I've loved it. I've loved them. In a sense, I've never really looked back in the past and said, okay, I regret doing that, So.
And on that note, we bring this interview to a wrap. Marlon, who has created employment for himself, moved away from being employed by a third party to generating his own organization and employing other people. Demming Chronicles, like and share our edition. Send us a note, ask us a question. Until next time, be safe.